A good hair transplant can really transform your life. It can change your looks, it can improve your self-esteem, and even improve your professional and personal life. Over the last 10 years, hair transplants have become affordable and they've become a serious option for men and women losing their hair. But if you don't do your research carefully, if you don't choose who does your hair transplant carefully, you can end up losing thousands of pounds or dollars in money. You can end up looking worse than you did before the hair transplant, and of course you can even end up being disfigured. So in this video I'm going to share 3 real-life case studies of people who did not do their research properly before going for a hair transplant and ended up with some horrific results. And stay till the end of the video because I'm going to share with you some tips on how you can avoid ending up with similar results. Let's go. So my name is Jibril, I'm a pharmacist and I've had interest in hair transplants and hair loss in general for over 15 years. I've done many videos and many blog articles on the subject. So in the first part of the video, we're going to go through the 3 cases in more detail. And in the second part of the video, I'm going to give you some easy tips and tricks to help you avoid a hair transplant disaster. So our first case is the notorious KSL clinic case. If you haven't heard about this clinic, they actually got shut down because they were doing so many botched operations. The government actually shut them down, and the technique they were using is to get celebrities to endorse them, and then their customers or potential clients see these celebrity endorsements and kind of flock to the clinic and get linked up with some dodgy surgeons that do terrible jobs. And our first case is a guy called, let's call him Steve, I don't want to reveal his real name of course, and his hair transplant started failing at 1 year, and he went back to the clinic and he said, what's going on, my hair transplant is failing, and they convinced him through some kind of dodgy salesmanship to have a second hair transplant with them. I mean, that is just terrible. Why would you have a second hair transplant with a clinic that gave you a failed one in the first place? And with the second hair transplant, that also started failing, and he could actually count the follicles. They were so pluggy and so poor that he could actually count the number of follicles he had. In the end, he ended up with a £10,000 bill, and he had to pay again to have it repaired. So it's a terrible story showing that if you don't do your research, if you just go with the marketing, go with these celebrity endorsements, you don't really dig deeper, you will end up with a heap load of trouble. Let's move on to our second horror case. It's a 30-year-old banker from the north of England. Let's call him Dave. And this guy got quoted £1,500 for a hair transplant that should really cost about £13,000. So he thought, wow, from £13,000 to £1,500, that's a huge saving. I'm gonna go for it. And even better that a friend recommended the clinic. So this shows you the problem with even friends' recommendations. He was initially pleased with the hair transplant. He thought it looked good, and things started going wrong after 3 months. And as you can see, he ended up with a horrible, blotchy, patchy, lopsided, it's almost like a comb over, a terrible hair transplant, which just shows you that if you go for the cheapest offer you can find, or if you go for something that sounds too good to be true, it probably is. It also shows that even friends' recommendations, however well-meaning they may be, even those you can't really trust 100%. You have to do your own research. Let's move on to our final case, a 30-year-old professional. I believe this guy was initially looking to become a professional footballer or soccer player, but then he changed course and became, I think, an investment banker or something like that. So he was well off, he had the money, and he was very impulsive, so he didn't really do the research. He just wanted to have his hair for his career, for his professional sides, and he just wanted to get the hair transplant done, really eager. And he booked he had two botched hair transplants, costing him over £33,000. And with the second hair transplant, he actually ended up with a huge puncture hole on the back of his head, like a physical disfigurement. He has a happy ending in the end. He had it all repaired, but only after 3 years. And at the 3-year mark, that's when he started to do what he called, and I quote, proper research. So only when he started to do proper research, he found good surgeons, he traveled to the States, I believe, and he had the botched operations repaired and the puncture hole repaired. Again, showing you, if you don't do your research, you might even end up disfigured. Wow, so many horror stories of people who did not do the research and just kind of ran in and booked with the clinic and just got it done. You are going to end up with some horror stories. So what can you do to avoid ending up with similar results? The first thing is, if you are thinking, by the way, Turkey now is the #1 place on the planet for hair transplants. Over the last 15 years, Turkey has overtaken America, North America, the US and Canada as the place for hair transplants. I mean, you can read about it in online and on printed press. Is the place to go to for hair transplants in terms of affordability, cost and quality. So if you are thinking of having a hair transplant done, most likely you're going to end up in Turkey because that is the place at the moment. And if that's you, then the good news is I've done all the research for you. You don't need to do any research. And I've put it together in a short ebook of about 40 pages. So if that's you, then good news, I've done all the research for you. You don't need to do anything. All you need to do is visit the link below and get my ebook, and that will take you through the process of booking a hair transplant in Turkey from A to Z, from the minute you depart to your airport in your home country to the minute you come back. It takes you through the whole journey, so you don't need to do anything. But if you need to do your own research, if you're thinking of going somewhere else other than Turkey, then I have some tips for you. And the first tip is join a hair loss forum, one of the good ones on Facebook and online, and spend 3 months learning and reading. That's it. You're not booking any surgeries, you're not booking any clinics. You're going to spend 3 months reading, learning. That's it. And my second tip is never book with a clinic that gives you an extremely cheap price. If a clinic's price seems amazingly cheap, do not book. No questions asked. Don't ask why, don't ask who. Don't book it. And my third tip is get at least 3 quotes. Don't go to one clinic and get their quote and do the surgery with them. Go to at least 3 different clinics. Get 3 different quotes as a minimum, preferably more, because this gives you an idea about the ballpark figure. You really want to see all 3 clinics quoting you the same number of grafts, the same cost roughly. If one clinic just seems way cheaper, then you know that clinic is dodgy. So never ever book one clinic, speak to one clinic and go ahead with one clinic. Always get at least 3 different quotes. So these are some basic research techniques you can start using now, but in 2 weeks time I'm going to publish a video, so make sure you subscribe to this channel. I'm going to publish a video taking you through how to do the research yourself from A to Z. I'm going to take you through every single step so that basically you can do all the research yourself. It will take you some time, but you can do all the research yourself 100%. So of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for that. But if you're thinking of going to Turkey for your hair transplant and you're too lazy to do all the research yourself, you don't want to be spending months in forums reading, then good news, I've done the research for you in my ebook that takes you through the journey from A to Z, kind of telling you what questions to ask your clinic, about cost, about some of the techniques the clinics use to entice their customers. Everything is covered in the book, and I even give you a short list of the best clinics, so you literally have to do no research at all. If that's you, then the link to the ebook is down below. I hope you find it useful. Stay tuned for 2 weeks time or next week for that video on how to do the research yourself. It's going to be a good one. Take care. See you soon.